All right.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the We're Only Human podcast, episode 2. Last time on We're Only Human, we had a little bit of an intro, a little bit of a recap explaining ourselves, how Alex and I met, and why we decided to start the podcast, a couple of random details. It was a little bit of a jumble thing. But now we've decided to go into the topic of mothers because, I don't remember why. Do you remember why we decided to do this topic?
We were gonna do a series called Family, the Good, the Bad, and the Memories.
Yes, that is it. That is it. And this is part 1. Moms. The good, the bad, the memories. Hello, Duder. Hope you're having a good day. Alright, Alex, would you like to start it off? We can start off with the first question. What is the most important thing your mom has taught you?
Well, I know for one that my mom always taught me not to settle for less. And not necessarily because she told me not to settle for less, but more so by her actions. She would not stop until she was satisfied with how things were. In school, relationships, etc. Like, for example, with my learning disability, she wasn't satisfied until until the school gave me the proper accommodations that I needed. And she also taught me the importance of looking after myself and making sure that I take care of myself properly.
That's good to hear. For me, I would say the most important thing my mom has taught me, it would be, I would say, a couple things. It's like a small series of things. First and foremost, I want to say that she taught me that I need to help. I need to at least try and help people if they need it, I guess you could say. Because, she's always had this sort of personality to where if somebody needs a hand with something, she's more than willing to give them a hand as long as she's willing to, or as long as she's able to and has the ability to actually help out. Because, she always taught me that I need to be a good person, and if somebody's going to have a bad time, I need to make sure that they're not going to have a bad time if I can help it, you could say. Number two, this is a bit of a personal thing for me. I want to say that I'm glad she taught me to cook. When I was younger, the longest time she would cook herself, but until she got old enough, or until I got old enough, I guess you could say, what she would do is she would be sitting at the breakfast table, and she would be giving me all these instructions, and I would basically be cooking it all on my own. Not to say that was bad or anything, or good or anything like that, but at the same time, I still learned on my own what works when it comes to cooking and what doesn't. Because now, if people do know me, I do like to cook. I haven't cooked that much recently just because of the whole work and everything like that. But I do love to cook myself. I want to say that I'm a decent cook, and at least I can make something from scratch if I wanted to, and for that I'm thankful for her. Okay, question 2. What is something your mom always says to you?
So for me, my mom always says that she wants the very best for me in everything. She's always made that abundantly clear that she just wants the very best for me. Whether she goes about it the right way or not, sometimes she hasn't gone about it the right way, but I know for a fact that she always has good intentions and she always wants the best for me.
Mm-hmm. For me, something my mom always says to me, if I was to think about it, I would say that she always wants me to try and appreciate what I have. Because, I'm not going to make it seem like, or she didn't make it seem like the starving children's in Africa sort of thing, but she always made it seem like I need to appreciate what I have because it could always be worse.
Yeah.
Because, again, life's always changing, you never know what's going to happen, and And of course, life could just throw a big old wrench in your plans and it can mess everything up. So at the same time, you need to appreciate what you have while you still have it.
Right. That was more so something that my dad taught me, but we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Okay, one thing. What is your mom really good at?
My mom is really good at being persistent. She will not rest until she is satisfied. Like I mentioned with the whole not settling for less thing. With me and my learning disability, there was a lot of complications with how the school handled it and the accommodations that they gave me, and she knew that they weren't giving me the proper accommodations, and she kept going to the school. She kept like calling every contact that she possibly could to help me out and try and get me the accommodations that I needed. And also with my sister having issues like medically, she was always in and out of the hospital. She was very persistent with that as well because she would not rest until they figured out what was wrong with my sister. So she's very persistent and she always looks out for us, and she was really good at that.
That's good to hear. One thing my mom is really good at, she is an excellent cook. She's always been the best cook in my life. She's made a million different dishes. She loves to spice things up with variety and everything like that.
Sounds like fun. I love food.
She makes the best lasagna. In fact, she even taught me how to make it. My memory's a little rough on it, but it is the best lasagna you will ever have. I can promise you that.
My mom makes the best meatballs. It's like a secret recipe thing, and
Mm.
it took the longest time for me to get her to give me the recipe, but she finally did.
Another thing my mom's really good at, she's really good at. Okay, so for a while, she was training to be a medical expert. I want to say maybe a nurse or something like that. So whenever I do have any sort of medical question at all, I can easily ask her and she will give me a very detailed answer. She'll give me all the solutions for it as well as the causes and everything like that. She's very detailed on it and I do appreciate her for that.
Yeah.
And I want to say another thing that she's really good at is she's always good at making sure that, I guess you could say, or at least when I'm with her anyway, she's always good at making sure that I'm comfortable, I guess you could say. She's always wants to make sure that where I'm set up at the moment, like if we're hanging out at like her place or her old townhouse in Cary or something like that, she wants to make sure that I have enough food, that AC is good, everything like that. She always makes sure that I'm nice and cozy, you could say.
Yeah.
Okay, the next topic is, what is your mom not good at? This is going to be a spicy one, let me tell you that.
So my mom has a really bad habit of speaking for us and answering questions for us. So I would say that she's not really good at letting us have our own voice. Anytime that like we would go to say a doctor's appointment or like a teacher meeting or whatever and whatnot, she would always answer questions, like even if the question was directed at us, she would always answer the question for us, and she would try and tell people how we were feeling instead of letting us tell others how we were feeling. And it was more so something where she was bad at giving us our independence.
Mm-hmm. For me, my mom, that would be a complicated multi-part question that I can definitely answer right now. But I want to say that a lot of context for it, or at least a lot of aftermaths of it, require another chapter. So we are going to get to those chapters, but yeah, here's my basic explanation. I want to say that one of the biggest faults my mom has had would be not resolving conflict, but more like shutting it down. Like, for example, as I talked about in my last episode, my sister was always had a very commanding presence. She would always tell me what to do because that in her mind, she believed that she needed to take care of me. But it got to the point where she would be influencing my decisions to the point where I couldn't even make my own decisions.
Yeah.
And whenever we got into arguing, me and my sister, my mom, she wouldn't ever try and dispute who was wrong or who was right. Just that she would try and just make us both stop because we need to appreciate each other. At the same time, she never really took the time to understand maybe the sister needs to chill off a bit because the brother feels like he's being like a little bit controlled in a way, I guess you could say. She, in a way, she has like bad social, and she's bad at like social IQ in a way, or at least when it comes to me and my sister, because we would always interact with each other, and she could always tell that she would be in charge of me, and I was always just doing my own thing, doing whatever she said. But of course, she never noticed that.
Yeah. I guess another thing with my mom is that she was really bad, like, it kind of goes along with the independence thing. She was really bad about not letting us, like, for example, if we wanted to help her in the kitchen, she would only let us do, like, certain things and very, like, simple things. She wouldn't let us help with, like, the more complicated things, which is also why I don't know how to cook.
Need me to teach you?
Do it, I dare you.
Also, like, another thing is, so for context, my mother, I want to say she's at a really good spot right now. Like, honestly, probably the best spot she's ever been in. But she does have weight problems, and they used to be a lot worse. And because of that, I would say that she has developed heart issues, not to the point where we have to worry or anything like that, but to the point where she does have checkups and medication and everything like that. And again, I'm not going to fault her for that, but I want to say maybe because of that, she basically developed a sort of lifestyle between me and her to where she would basically just be sitting down and she would be having me do like all the chores, all the tasks, all the cleaning and everything like that, to where sometimes she would even call me over. She would even call me over sometimes, or she would pick me up from my dad's place saying, hey, can you tell me to clean out my car and I'll get you wings? Of course, like, she'd give me food and everything like that, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, it was still to the point where I would be doing all the cleaning and she would simply be watching and just talking, I guess you could say. It's to the point where I wouldn't be able to talk, I wouldn't be able to ask if or not we could do equal labor or equal effort. It would just be me doing my own thing while she'll be talking to me and telling me what to do.
Did she ever make you feel like you were like just free labor to her? Because I know my mom has made me feel like that a couple of
Yeah,
times.
yeah, definitely. That's my point.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, the next question is, what do you and your mom do together the most?
So for me, when I was younger, it was always we would go for ice cream together or like, just a little maybe like a McDonald's date or whatever. And we would do that together. She would always make sure to set aside a little bit of time for each individual child because she knew that sometimes if we were all together and we didn't get one-on-one time, we might feel neglected. So when I was little, we'd always go for ice cream, and now whenever we get the chance, because obviously it's hard living in two different states, but now when we get the chance, we go for coffee instead of ice cream.
That's always nice. The thing me and my mom always do together the most would be two things. One, cooking, because we love to cook together. I just want to say, nowadays we love to cook together, and two, is watching movies and TV shows. I'm finding that her and I have basically the exact same taste in movies. She will watch Godzilla vs. Kong all night with me, as well as a million different other movies, The Walking Dead, some Marvel movies, DC movies, anything like that at all. And we have an absolute blast with it.
See, me and my mom don't have the same taste in movies, because my mom is very much like, she just watches a lot of like those really chill like romance movies, and I don't really like all of those that much. I mean, I watch them sometimes, but a lot of times I prefer to watch like action or comedy and such. So I never really liked watching movies with my mom.
Like, it's funny. My mom likes to watch those too as well. Like, she will watch soap operas, and I mean soap operas that are a little older than Doctor Who. I remember there's one I think it's General Hospital. It is quite literally older than Doctor Who, and it is still running as a show. I don't understand how it's possible. Crazy.
Oh wow.
But
Wait,
yeah,
what was it called?
a General Hospital? Yeah, General Hospital. There's a couple other ones with several other names that I should remember, but I don't at the moment. But yeah, that's one of them. And
Yeah.
I remember when maybe like a year or two after my parents' divorce, we moved into her apartment, and my sister, when she would be with her dad, I guess you could say, or with her friends, me and my mom would always be at home, and we would be binging the absolute fuck out of The Walking Dead. We absolutely loved The Walking Dead and everything about it. We were the most obsessed with it. But I want to say that now that we're kind of a little distant, and that I'm like 99% of the time at my dad's place, that we kind of fell off after like season 8. I want to say around season 8. We've yet to catch up with the show. Like we tried catching up with it a couple weeks ago, but you got to make time for that and everything.
Yeah. My mom more so watches movies like with my older sister because they kind of like a lot of the same movies, and she also watches a lot of like the religious movies as well, which I'm not really into. So I prefer to watch my movies by myself or with someone else who can relate to the type of movies or shows that I watch. But I feel like she'd probably like a show like The Good Doctor or something like that.
I used to watch The Good Doctor. It's been a while. I gotta catch up on it.
We binged it for a while and we got caught up, but there is a new episode that we haven't watched yet.
Yeah. How many seasons are there now?
3?
3, okay.
Or 4?
That's pretty good.
I think there's at least 3.
Oh, I remember me and my sister and my mom actually. Oh, this is my microphone stand. In case you're wondering what I'm holding in my hand. But yeah, my mom, my sister, and I, we would used to watch Grey's Anatomy almost every single day, and I don't know if they're caught up, but I am very much behind, as I'm sure I'm like 4 seasons behind. As you know, there's like a billion different seasons of Grey's Anatomy and everything like that.
I've never watched Grey's Anatomy.
It's good. It's a really good show. It's interesting. Like, in a way, it's interesting because they try and simulate real life, but to a point where it's really dramatic, and I guess you could say real life scenarios that are very extreme in a way happen every single day, you could say. Because they want to act like it's literally life and death at the hospital, because of course it is a hospital, but it's to the point where it's very dramatic and you never know what to expect.
Yeah.
But it is a good show. Well, of course, again, I'm behind on the latest 4 seasons, so I wouldn't know, but I gotta say, seasons 1 through 7, absolutely amazing show. 100% recommended.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, the next question is, if your mom had $1 million, what would she do with it?
That is a loaded question because my mom would most definitely spend all of it. She would probably use some of it to spoil us kids. And then she might also treat herself a little bit. She would probably set some of it aside for like living, and also like to, if we like were to have kids, give her grandkids, she'd probably want to use it to spoil them too.
Where my grandkids at?
Yeah. And then she would also probably put the rest of it towards like church related things like fundraisers and charities and whatnot.
Right. For my mom, it is also a loaded question, so I'm going to try and think about all the details for it, because I'm sure that there's a lot of different things that she would do. First, the first thing she would do is she would get a house, because right now she's trying to get a house. So at the moment, for the past, I want to say 3 to 4 months now, she's been living at her mom's house, because my step-grandfather, he's been in the hospital for about 3.5 months now, recovering from COVID. And good news, he's finally going to come home on the 21st. So that's good.
Nice.
Yeah. Of course, he's going to receive medical treatment at home and everything like that. But it's good that he's finally coming home.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, for the longest time, I've been trying to get out of my dad's house. Well, of course, the thing is, like, that's because back then, my stepmom still lived here. For a little one of the context, go back to the first episode, but yeah, my stepmom's no longer here. She moved to Virginia. Basically, it's weird. She like broke up with my dad, but they haven't gotten a divorce yet, so they're both living in 2 different states at the moment. Oh, I guess you could say he's living in Uganda technically, because he's on a business trip, but technically, he resides in North Carolina, and she's in Virginia, I think. Pretty sure it's Virginia.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, she's been, I guess you could say, for a little while now, she's been trying to get me out of the house, because she knows that I'm not in a healthy environment here. Although, of course, like, things have changed now that the stepmom has left. But she's trying to get her own house now. That way, if I ever need a place to stay, I'll definitely be able to stay with her, basically.
Yeah, I think that if my mom had $1 million, she would also probably get a house. And I think that she would get one house in California and then one house in South Carolina.
I want to say also my mom. So, a fun fact: my mom and dad used to run a well, they weren't in charge of the cruise company, but they used to be two agents in a cruise company. And let me tell you, they were the absolute best at it. My mom is amazing at sales. My dad runs the numbers and everything like that. Those two were an amazing team. And I know for a fact that she could definitely use a cruise vacation right now, so she would definitely take it. I'd definitely try and get a good deal on that, as well as bring me my sister on that.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't love that?
hmm Oh yeah, and one thing that she loves to do, I bet you she would also get a huge flat screen and put it right in her bedroom because, of course, no disrespect people who do this, but she always has to have the TV on as well as the volume playing so she can sleep. She needs like some sort of background noise for it.
Hmm.
The next question is, did your mom have a positive or negative impact, and why? I'm gonna assume that means positive impact on you or me, and why?
Yeah, like on our lives.
Right.
Um, I'll say a little bit of both because, like every person, she did have her ups and downs.
But in the
She
end, we're only
definitely,
human.
yes, perfect way of putting the title in there. But yeah, like she she had both a positive and a negative impact because on one hand, she taught me to look after myself and be persistent or like stand up for myself, I guess I should say. And then also on the other hand, she was really bad at like giving us our independence, and so it was a little bit difficult for me to kind of gain my independence for a little bit.
That's fair. So, my mom, this is a loaded question as well. Of course, as I've mentioned, she taught me to take care of others, have an opinion of my own, and make sure that if somebody needs help, you're going to help them. But at the same time, like, there's also a bunch of negative impacts that she left on me because, like, it's interesting. I've talked about this in my first episode. You can catch that if you want to, but the basic explanation is that because of how she had like I don't again I'm not gonna say it's like a bias between me and my sister, but it's the fact that she would let my sister do whatever she wanted half the time, and
Right.
whenever I would do something, I would basically react to what she was doing, and that would lead to an argument, and that would basically shut us down. So it would be to the point where my sister would do whatever she wanted, but until I decided to argue with her, that's when things would get shut down. So it's weird because in a way I struggled with self value for the longest. I suffered from self value for the longest time,
Right.
and I know it's led me to believe that maybe more people are more important than me and stuff like that. And I've had to work on myself for a long time. My ex helped me with that, but she helped me with a lot of other stuff. I'm gonna get to that later, but yeah, with my mom, she taught me that she kind of taught me that I do need to be more tolerant of other people, I guess. Yeah, she taught me to
Yeah.
be tolerant of other people, but at the same time, the message of that was a little rough because obviously, there was the whole thing with the sister and everything like that, and of course with her along with my sister and my dad, it got to the point in our lives to where whenever I would complain about something, it would seem like I'm ungrateful, but that's because I learned that whenever I complained, I would be in trouble, although everybody else could complain.
Yeah.
It's to the point where That's funny. This is my old Twitter bio, but it's to the point where I would be treated as a second class citizen, whereas everyone in my family was treated as first class, I guess.
Yeah. I think that also with my mom, she was very much I lost my train of thought. She was like, I don't know how to explain it. I lost my train of thought, and so I'm trying to like get back on the train.
Is this more of a positive impact or a negative impact?
I would say it was more of like a negative impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um
But yeah, like with my mom at the same time, like it's weird because like when I was a kid and I was raised by my mom, I always believed that I had the best childhood. I believed that everything in my life was perfect, but of course it wasn't until my ex actually had me talk through everything that happened, and it's to the point where we realized it's not exactly perfect. It's a little bit of a fucked up situation. So like,
Yeah.
it's weird because thing is like I have wonderful memories with my mother and everything like that, but of course it's on a faulty foundation that I'm not even fully aware of because I have positive memories as a kid.
Right. Okay, I found my train of thought.
Nice.
Um, so basically, my mom, she had a little bit of an issue where whenever we were growing up, I'm very, like, at heart, like, I'm very selfless, but growing up, like, as a kid, I wanted to be selfless, but she always had, like, this mentality that, like, you have to take care of yourself first, and, paired with, like, if she was short on money and we happened to have money from, like, earning it or something, she would take it and tell us that she'd pay us back for it because she thought that it was, like, more important for her and not as important for us. And so it kind of gave me this mentality growing up that, like, I have to protect my belongings because my mom was a little bit selfish with her belongings. And so that's something that to this day I'm still working on because, like, I don't like being selfish, but at the same time, that's kind of what I was taught growing up.
And like, it was kind of similar to that with my mom in a way, but the thing is like she would always pay us back literally the second she had the chance for it. So at the same time, I want to say that I never really had an issue with her with that. But the thing is like, I don't know, I guess in a way I would always be worried that she would need money or something like that. But at the same time, it's weird because I developed my own sort of fear off of that, even though she would easily pay me back at the end to where there will be no harm or no casualty or no aftermath at all.
Yeah. With my mom, it was like, sometimes, like, she'd pay us back. There was, or most of the time she'd pay us back, but there was a couple of times where she didn't pay us back. And so it was like, in my head, it was like, well, I have to protect my assets because like if someone takes it, I'm not going to get it back.
That's fair. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess another impact that my mom has left on me is that sometimes when somebody's going to call me out on something, I can just be, or at least I want to say that I used to be, I don't know now because I've been put in the situation recently. I want to say that whenever somebody calls me out on something, I can be extremely defensive because, again, with my sister, again, I know I keep saying that my sister did this, but the fact that my mom was ignorant on the fact, that's why I'm saying my mother
Yeah.
left its impact on me. So it would be to the point where I would be overly defensive because I would feel like I'm always under attack or somebody's always trying to undermine whatever I'm trying to do or whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I felt the same way with my siblings too because I always felt like my concerns weren't being heard and my sisters could get away with things and I felt like I couldn't get away with anything.
Sorry if I was hitting the mic on stream. Apologies for that. I was trying to do a little adjustment.
You're
Yeah.
good.
But yeah, like, it's interesting because at the same time, we know for a fact that mothers, most mothers anyway, they try and do their best with their kids. Obviously, we don't. Obviously, there shouldn't be the expectation of them being perfect. But at the same time, there should be at least a little borderline thing to where you need to make sure that you're doing this, you need to make sure that you're doing that, you need to make sure that there's no bias among the kids and everything like that, because at the same time, of course, it is a complicated job, but in the end, you are going to create a person and you're going to give them their own faults as well as their own benefits.
Yeah.
So again, respect to all mothers in the world, except for like the ones that actually don't deserve it. But at the same time, like with my mom, she did her best. Like one thing that I do appreciate that she did is that maybe this is natural in me, maybe it isn't. I want to say, but I want to say that I know for a fact that she instilled a sense of goodness in me. She
Yeah.
always trying to make sure that I'm always trying to do the right thing and that I'm not trying to be an asshole to someone or anything like that at all. Because at the same time, I know for a fact that to this day, I'm not going to try and make someone's day worse. I'm going to try and make their day better because at the same time, if someone's day is worse, then that's not going to help anyone. That's not going to help anyone at all. If anything, that's just going to make everyone's lives more difficult.
Yeah.
Which is why whenever I hear a friend in a voice chat coughing or something like that, I'm always asking, you good? You okay? Do you need anything? Anything like that? Because the thing is, like, I want to make sure that they're doing okay. I need to make sure that they don't need anything from me. I want to make sure that they're all set up and everything like that. And like, here's another thing. I guess you could say my dad raised me on this too, but like, whenever we would go out to a restaurant, or like at least when my mom or dad were paying, I would always order something. That was nice. That was filling. That was a bit of a little bit of a spoiling thing for me because I wanted to treat myself. I wanted a nice meal.
Yeah.
But I was taught that whenever I'm with somebody else and they're gonna pay for me, I'm gonna make sure that I get an order that isn't gonna be complicated, isn't gonna be expensive. It's just gonna be just the essentials, just what I need. Because again, this person is trying to treat me nice. They're trying to take care of me. They're trying to give me a free meal, and I'm not gonna take advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it was with me as well. Both of my parents would tell me, like, make sure that you don't, like, overstep bounds and stuff with whenever other people are paying for you.
Hmm.
And, my mom, I mean, she was a little bit different about it because, like, she didn't really go to the extent of, like, saying, like, she wasn't as strict about it. Sometimes she didn't really care as long as the person, like, was offering, like, you know, but, my dad was more so like that.
Hmm.
My mom is also, like, she's the type of person that she, like, wants to help people and stuff, but, like, her idea of helping is more so, like, she wants to do it her way, and if she doesn't do it her way, then she kind of unintentionally gaslights you
Hmm.
into making it her way.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So she tries to be helpful, she just isn't always
Mhm.
very helpful.
One bad habit that I got from my mom that I don't mind having it is that we can both be very sleep deprived. Of course, nowadays she doesn't have a sleep schedule because she's getting a little older right now and she knows that she needs to be more responsible for herself. But like
Yeah.
we develop, sometimes it would be maybe like 1 or 2 a.m. We would always stop by Walmart just to pick up a couple items. We'd always go on like 1 a.m. Walmart sprees and everything like that. And I developed the habit from her, or at least, I don't know if it's a habit from her, or maybe it's just instilled, or maybe it's just like a hereditary feature that I got from her. It's where her and I used to stay up until we ran out of fumes. It's to the point where we would stay awake until we knew for a fact that we were about to shut down. It's not to the part where we would develop ourselves a responsible sleep schedule or go to bed on time. It's to the point where we would feel like, okay, we need to go to bed. Let's just go to bed just instead of trying to go to bed on time, trying to wake up on time too. All right, dude, you
Right.
take care.
Meanwhile, my mom gave me my sleep schedule, and my dad destroyed my sleep schedule.
I want to say that. So my sister, good for her. She is I want to say that she's practically almost a PA right now. She works in a dermatology center, and it's interesting. She's like a little bit better than a nurse right now. She's always been, I guess you could say, she's always been the academic star of the family. She's always been doing classes, and she always did dual enrollment. She did college during high school. She'd always be like 2 years ahead of everyone else. But the thing is that because she was so perfect, she never really got any attention from really got any attention from her parents. Whereas
Yeah.
me, I would always be the guy who would need medicine in order to focus on classes, whose grades would always be plummeting because I can never pay attention or I can never have the motivation to actually do my school. But because of that, my parents always gave me a lot of focus and always trying to give me a lot of attention. Of course, I'm not going to say whether or not that was good or negative attention, but I got attention regardless. And because of that, she would always be left out.
Yeah.
And I want to say because of that, my mom and I, we developed a really close relationship to where we would always trying to do stuff together. We're always really close to each other, trying to make sure that we're good, we're all set up, we have everything we need, and it's to the part where her and I will just have like nonstop conversations about like movies or TV shows, something like that. But it's also to the point where her and I will literally just be sitting on the couch, just not doing anything at all, and yet we'll be comfortable. It'll be dead silence, but it's not an awkward silence at all. You could say it's to the
Yeah.
point where her and I could just chill, or like watch TV or something like that. We could just sit there and be comfortable with each other because we have that relationship.
Right. I don't know. I feel like my relationship with my mom has always been a little bit rocky. We didn't really get along basically ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were some moments that we've had that we were fine, but I kind of leaned more towards my dad. And so with my mom, my relationship with my mom, it was kind of like she didn't really know what to do with me because I didn't really like I didn't make it easy for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so like even now like we don't really talk like a whole lot and I can't really be super close with her. Like I don't really tell her every little thing that goes on in my life. I will say that our relationship is a little bit better now than it was before. But I don't really think that I can get super close with my mom. I love her to death, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But she is definitely not the same. We don't have the same characteristics, the same personality. Like we just don't really like fit, so to speak.
Right.
Plus she's a Scorpio.
Also, I want to say that for the longest time during my parents' divorce, so it would be like every month or so, or every like, it's interesting. Like, it was at a point where it was very stressful for me and my sister because we would literally switch back and forth every like 2 weeks or so, sometimes even a week and a half, to the point where we'd literally be packing and moving nonstop. And it's interesting. If I had to pick between the two, I couldn't because they both had their pluses because my dad, he was always financially stable because of his job, but my mom, she was always there for emotional support, making sure that we're in a safe environment. Because,
Right.
like, when I was a kid, I would have chosen my mom because for me personally, I didn't care about money. I just wanted to be happy, and I just wanted a place where I could just feel comfortable, and I could just feel like I'm not going to get attacked or yelled at or anything like that.
Right.
And yeah, it's like, it was weird because I could either help my mom try and scrounge up some change just so we can like try and pay for gas, or I could be like eating a steak with my dad, but hearing him also talk about how I need to try and be a better person, otherwise I'm gonna fail in the future.
Right.
Yes, exactly, Duder. It's not about the money, it's about feeling the comfort. That's exactly it.
I don't really see, I've always told myself I don't want a lot of money. I just want to be comfortable.
Mm. Yeah, and like it's funny. I'm the opposite about that with my dad. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was Theodore that said that, not Kozak. My apologies, Kozak. But yeah, like my dad, he's always been that guy to where if we have this idea, if we set up this one business, we'll be able to make billions and millions of dollars. But at the same time, for me, I'm not an entrepreneur like him. I just want to be able to have a little setup to myself to where I'm not going to be like overflowing with money to where I'm not going to know what to do with it. I just want to put myself in a situation to where I'm going to be comfortable. If I have kids, they'll be comfortable as well. And that's all I need.
Yeah.
That is true, Alex. I gave credit to the wrong person. I apologize for that, Kozak.
I thought it was a little bit funny.
You know, fuck it. Let me make you mod, Alex, just for safety.
Sweet.
Okay. I
So I have
remember.
an additional. Oh,
What's
whoops.
that?
I was like, I have an additional question.
Yeah, what's up?
What is something like? What's the funniest thing that you could remember about your mom?
So, my mom, when it comes to like learning complicated things, she's never been that good or patient at it. I'm trying to remember if it was like knitting or crocheting. It's like, do you know the difference between knitting and crocheting, perchance?
Yes, I do.
Which one is with the really big sticks? Like the really big, like, sticks?
So with crochet, you're using one like little needle slash hook, and with knitting, you're using two. That's the difference. The
Okay.
the size is more so like the size of the loops that it makes whenever you're knitting or crocheting.
Okay, yeah, then I was crocheting. I remember my sister, she had a little crocheting phase. She made herself a little sweater. She made herself a little big blanket too, a couple rags and everything like that. And
Uh-huh.
my mom wanted to learn, so when my sister tried to teach my mom, it got so complicated for her. She literally just said, "I literally said I can." She just she literally just threw the yarn and the crochet across the room. She just gave up.
So with my mom loved playing little practical jokes on our guests, like if we brought a friend over or whatever.
Hmm.
And her version of practical jokes was like saying something in all seriousness that was ridiculous and completely untrue. For example, um one time we were having dinner and we had a guest over, and it was my older sister's friend, and she had said, "Can you please pass the salt?" And my mom said in a complete serious tone, "We don't allow our guests to use our salt." And my sister's friend thought that she was being completely serious, and she like looked like she was on the verge of tears, like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't know." And my mom just busted out laughing, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be I didn't mean to scare you like that, I just thought it was funny."
Yeah.
She did stuff like that a lot.
Hmm. Yes, Kozik's ultimate prank. Okay, so this is a bit of a negative thing for me, but yeah, a bit of a flashback. So my mom's been friends with this one woman, and they've been friends since before me and my sister were born. And she basically raises her grandson. It's a complicated long story, but basically, he's a special needs guy, and I want to say I don't have any problem with him. But thing is, like, again, I know this is just the way he is, so I'm not going to fault him for it. But it would get to the point to where whenever I would compliment something, he would do everything he could to where he would make it try and make me seem like it's a bad thing. I guess you could say. When anything that I really enjoyed, he would do what he could in order to make sure that I didn't like it. And
Yeah.
he had a bit of an I'm gonna say it's bit okay. I'm gonna be honest. He had a bit of a pornographic addiction to stuff, to where
Mhm.
we would always go to Barnes and Nobles because we loved comic books, you know.
Right.
And it got to the point where my job would basically be to get him to focus on the good comic books and not the NFSW comic books, which he would always end up reading anyway.
Right.
Like sometimes my mom would ask me whenever I'm with my dad, "Hey, do you want to hang out? Do you want to hang out on this day?" I would say yeah, but what she didn't say is what that really means is she would hang out with her friend, and I would hang out with a young guy, and then I'd basically be an overly criticized guard for him or something like that, trying to make sure that he doesn't like look into anything bad, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, I did talk to my mom about this eventually, to where I'm saying I'm not going to see them anymore because I'm not here to babysit. I'm here to hang out with you. And if you're going to tell me that we're going to hang out, but only for me to take care of him, then I'm just not going to see you at all. And she understood that completely, and to where I don't have to worry about that now, to where if we are going to hang out, it's going to be actually us two and not something else entirely.
Right. With my mom, I will say one kind of negative memory, or not really, like, I guess it's a memory. My mom had this friend while I was growing up, and she was an older lady. and like we all like loved her. We loved going to visit. She'd always like make sure that we were fed, and she would always just talk to us and stuff, and sweetest old lady ever.
Hmm.
um but the old lady's son, who I believe at the time was maybe in his 40s or so,
Hmm.
um he had a bit of an addiction problem, and
Can I ask what addiction
my
to? Was it a substance abuse?
yeah, it was a substance abuse.
Okay.
And so my mom didn't really like that, and so eventually it got to the point where he ended up getting arrested, and my mom cut that friend off. And
Hmm.
so now, like, I believe she did end up like getting back in contact, but like then lost contact again. So now it's like there's this old lady, and I have no idea if she's even still alive because she
Hmm.
was really, really old the last time I saw her. And my mom doesn't even like talk about it. And whenever I ask, it's like she just doesn't want to. So,
Hmm. But yeah, like that thing, I guess you could say I just talked about. It was kind of a recurring theme, but not exactly with like that little thing that I had to do. So she
yeah.
would always make a bunch of friends, and they would always invite us over for dinner, and it would get to the point where I would be playing with a bunch of 12 or 11-year-olds, and I'm like 17 or 16 years old, and where she
Yeah.
would be talking to her friends, eating, and then getting drunk. Of course, I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
like her drinking was anything bad, and it wasn't bad at all. Nothing bad came out of that, but it was to the point where she would basically be inviting me over to keep the kids busy so she could talk to the adults.
Yeah.
That's happened like several different times over my childhood with several different families, everything like that, and yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's understandable too. So,
Yeah, it is understandable. It is, but at the same time, like, it's just annoying because I know I get that she didn't have any other option, or at least no other way to actually communicate with her friend. But of course, there was just still the awkward age gap to the point where I would even be 18
yeah,
years old and I would be hanging out with like 14-year-olds trying to keep them busy, try to keep them
it put
occupied.
you in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I mean, you do have the right to be uncomfortable too, because I wouldn't have liked that. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I personally like I never really minded, like, as a child, I never really minded hanging out with people that were younger, as long as they weren't like astronomically younger than me.
Hmm.
Um like if they were like maybe like 2, 3 years or 4 years even, that was fine with me. But uh grow like now it bothers me when people are like so much younger than me, because they don't really understand the same life experiences that I
You
get
don't
now
know
because I'm
how
an
harsh the
adult.
world is to us, young boy. You have no idea.
So now I prefer to hang out with people that are either my age or older.
Yeah. Yeah, same here exactly. Like, if it was like 1 to 2 years, I wouldn't mind at all. But there would always be that overwhelming age gap between like people that my mom would want me to hang out with.
Right. So shall we move on to the random fact of the day?
Yes, would you like to read it or do you want me to?
I can do it. So, did you know that we had a solar eclipse on my birthday?
No, I didn't.
It was very early in the morning,
Oh,
so
by the
I'm sure
way,
a lot of people were like asleep for it.
happy belated birthday to the co-host, Alex Sigil. You guys mentioned that part. Apologies.
Danke. So, this random fact of the day is solar eclipse related because there was a solar eclipse on my birthday. Um, did you know that a solar eclipse actually helped to end a 6-year war in 585 BC, when the sky suddenly got dark during battle between the Lydians and the, I don't know how to pronounce it. I
Eats?
think it's Medes. Yeah. In modern Turkey, soldiers saw that as a sign to stop fighting, and it actually ended the war.
Yeah. Truly amazing. Hey guys, what the fuck shit in the sky? Let's stop fighting. We're good. We chill. Yeah, cause it is neat. Okay, so we got like 10 minutes left in the podcast. So I want to say that our next topic. What is our next topic? Is our next topic going to be fathers, or is that going to be siblings?
Next topic will be fathers because next week is Father's Day.
Yes, that is correct. That is on point. Oh yeah, speaking of fathers, after 6.5 months, my father's finally going to come home from Uganda. He'll be here on Tuesday. You can believe it.
Nice.
Yeah,
I have a package coming in on Tuesday.
nice.
And I thought I was going to say something, but I guess I don't have anything to say.
Wow, thanks. But yeah, to recap on the subject of mothers, I would say that, of course, again, a mother's job is never easy. It's never something that comes with a manual or a book or anything like that, or instruction guides or anything like that. They do their best, of course. They do what they can to raise you, to try and make sure that you're going to be the best person that you can, or at least what they believe the best person is. And, of course, there are plenty of faults on their own, but at the same time, in the end, we're only human. People try to do the best. People try to do the best, of course. There isn't always a guarantee that they're going to do a good job, but there's no guarantee that they're going to give you a safe environment. I don't know, it sounds weird me saying a safe environment, but of course, like, you know what I mean when I say that because of previous context, what we've been talking about. And and yeah, it's interesting because, again, obviously, I would love to be a parent myself, but there is still that idea of if I'm going to raise a kid, what am I going to instill on that kid? What type of person am I going to make them into? And am I going to make sure that they're going to live a healthy lifestyle and end up being a healthy person later on? Because that is the responsibility of a parent.
I think that if I do end up having kids, and I'm still not sure yet, and I don't really have to be sure because I'm still young, but if I do end up having kids, I'm most definitely gonna make sure that they know that they're their own person and they can make their decisions. Obviously, like a 5-year-old probably can't make adult decisions, but like I want to make sure that my child were to like develop their own independence at an earlier age without it being too unhealthy as well.
I would say the biggest thing I want to make sure that my kid is aware of is that if they're uncomfortable, unhappy, or if they feel like they're offended at something, or at least they're just upset about something, that they have the right to tell me about it, and they said that they should not keep their mouth shut, because at the same time, if you're going to keep that inside you, that's all going to hurt you later on. You need to make sure that you're going to tell me about it. You need to make sure that you're happy. You need to make sure that you're in a good situation, in a good place, and I want to make sure that I'm doing right by you.
Yeah. And I think that also, because one thing that I know my family was kind of bad at was, when you think of like consent, you think of sex, but it also kind of like fits in with like whether or not you want to give someone a hug or if you want to give someone a kiss, like in family terms and stuff. Like if you're gonna see like an aunt or an uncle that you haven't seen in a while and like they want to give you a hug, like one thing that I want to make sure my kids know in the future is that you don't have to give them a hug if you don't want to give them a hug, because I know growing up I was forced to give people hugs and kisses that I didn't want to give hugs and kisses to. So I think that that's one thing that I will do differently.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm an absolute hugger. I'll hug anyone that's willing to give me a hug. And
Oh,
yeah,
same.
it's funny though, but there were like a couple people that actually didn't want to give a hug to, but maybe it's just because I had a little kid bias in myself, I guess you could say.
See, for me, it's more so like I'm not gonna just hug a random stranger, and I'm also not gonna hug someone that I don't really connect with.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
a
definitely.
family member that I haven't seen in a while, I'm probably less likely to hug than someone that I see on a more like normal basis, because like it just feels weird to me.
Hmm. You know, funny thing, speaking of hugs, this was last week. So I used to work in the meat department at work, and this one guy named Luke, he was an absolute dear. He was the nicest guy in the store, but he got transferred to a different store. He came in
Right.
that day looking for a specific type of meat, and then he saw me, and then he gave, and so little context, we're both vaccinated, so it's fine. He gave me a hug so tight, I think he fixed my back mostly.
That's actually really funny.
I could hear, when it happened, I could feel like 3 or 4 different pops or cracks.
That has definitely happened to me on some occasions where like either it be a hug or like I shake someone's hand because like sometimes like it's not like me cracking my knuckles. I don't really crack my knuckles, but sometimes like my hand will kind of like pop. And so like if someone shakes my hand too hard, that happens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, let me see if I can get this on the mic. Enough noise suppression. So I've cracked my knuckles to the point where I could simply like flex my knuckles and you'll hear a little cracking. Maybe see if you can hear this. I don't know if you heard that or not.
I did hear that. I can't crack my knuckles. I'm like terrified of cracking my knuckles and I don't even know how.
For me, honestly, it's like morning ritual. I wake up and I pop my wrists, I pop my knuckles, and I'm trying to make sure everything like that. Because like for me personally, it feels like for me I'm just loosening up my hands to where they can just relax. Thank you, Kozix. Kozix just said it sounds as if someone stomped on a plastic bottle.
I agree with that.
Okay, so yeah, our next topic is going to be about fathers. We're going to have it next Sunday, and it's going to be in honor of Father's Day. I'm sure it's going to be quite a controversial topic for a conversation, given the fact that we're two very specific people. So, you know, we have interesting stories to tell, and hopefully people will be around to listen to them.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go and find someone to host. Who are we going to host today? I believe Moofle and Fallacy are both live. Those are both really good friends of mine. At least they should be live. Where are they? I don't see them live right now. That's so weird. They went live like a couple minutes ago.
Rest in pieces.
Damn. They're just gone. Let me double check, see what's going on over there. Maybe they're having connection issues or something like that. Let me take a look at their channel. Then again, they've been having really short streams lately, so I don't know what's going on. Open up your channel. Yeah, you're offline. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll find someone to host. Let me see who's live right now. Shall I take a pic of? I don't know these people. Who should I follow? Do you have anyone to host? Alex, perchance?
I do not.
You should go get someone. It's good for you. I will host Apex. Apex is an old friend of mine. I met him on the first ever Twitch channel that I got attached to. You guys should definitely give him a follow, show him some support, let him know I sent you and everything like that. And I will see you all in the next podcast and or stream. Nope, let me go and mute that for an ad. Put ourselves in an ad break. Okay, yeah, we're currently on ad break. Nobody else can hear us right now, so yeah, that's basically it. And once this ad is over on his part as well as my part, I'm going to go and send him a host.
Wait.
Yeah, that was a good episode.